Welcome to Stella Root's Table, the podcast dedicated to life and everything that comes with it. Come on in and have a seat, grab your beverage of choice, and let's sit down at this table and have a chat. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day it is where you are. I greet you with a big old Texas smile and a hug from afar. You have tuned in to Stella Root's Table, the podcast dedicated to life and everything that goes along with it. I am your host, Kimberly Brown, and I am unapologetically myself because I don't know how to be anybody else. So today, at the table, Big Mama's table, that's what I've been calling it. Because it used to be a time when we would all sit down at the table in the dining room or the kitchen, and we would just talk. And talk about what we did for the day and talk about life and all that kind of stuff. And so we trying to get back to that. And we tired of people texting us and emailing us. We want to have conversations.
Yes.
So today on Stella Root's Table, I have a very, very, very special guest. She is very important to me and important in my life. I know I bring a lot of important people, but if you guys only knew, this is the voice in my head when I'm going through some stuff. Whenever I'm going through some things, I hear her voice in my head telling me to calm down. It's okay. It's not that serious. So she is my conscience. My conscience. So today we have on our show, and we're still in the midst of our Women Talking series. Today our topic is none of your business. So we're going to talk about people's perception of you being none of your business. I heard Lisa Nichols say that, and I went, wow.
Yeah.
We got to have that conversation.
That's
so
heavy.
today on my show, I have Professor Dianne Malone.
Hi, good to be here.
And she is one of my favorite people. And she's not just my friend, she is my sister. We adopted each other.
Yes, we did. We did.
We adopted each other. And I love her dearly. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you guys a little bit about herself.
Okay, so I was born by the river in a little tent. I'm just kidding. I'm Dianne Malone. I was born in Shreveport from a little bitty town called Bastrop, Louisiana, where I was raised, educated in Louisiana for the most part. Finished some graduate work here in Memphis, where I am now. So I call myself a transplanted official Memphian now. I'm married to a wonderful man, a preacher, Isaac Malone. I have 3 kids. My oldest son is 18. He's a freshman at LSU, and my middle son is 14, and my baby girl is 9. That's my family. As a profession, I guess my career would be teaching. I'm a professor of English, literature, and African American studies. And I'm also a writer. So I have collabed on several books, written one on my own, been managing editor for one, and am working on a couple of projects right now. I am also the vice president of student affairs at a small Christian college, a little seminary called MCUTS, which stands for Memphis Center for Urban Theological Studies. So I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of things. I also teach at the University of Memphis, African and African American Studies. And Kim is my friend. She took hold of me, and we have not let go of each other since we met. Fast, deep friends. So I'm glad to be on the show.
Oh, I am so glad to have you. I tell everybody, I said, I am not worthy of the friends that I have. I have important people, important friends that are in high places, and I'm just me.
We all are. That's why we're friends. Yeah.
I'm just me. I said, God loves me because he puts wonderful people in my life. I feel important.
Because you are. Because you are. I forgot to say too, Kim, about the blog. I have a blog. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
called Who's That Lady? And it's been in circulation for almost, it'll be 10 years, I think,
Wow.
in October. So I'm on and off the blog a lot, but it's being revived for April, and hopefully we'll may be able to make it last through the summer before we take another break.
Oh,
So
okay.
check me out at diannemalone.com /blog, and it's all kinds of stuff on there to read.
Oh, love it, love it. And she
Mhm,
writes beautiful books, you guys. I'm telling you, she
mhm.
writes wonderful stories. And you have a devotional book as well, right?
I do.
I
It's
see.
called, yeah, it's called Light Up, and it's kind of like um, kind of giving women a recharge for when they kind of getting down in the dumps, or they
Hmm.
feel like it's that they're in a dark place. It's just a reminder that you can always plug back in to
Hmm.
God, and He can light you up from the inside. And it
Oh,
even goes
okay.
into how to deal with folk who can't deal with your light. So I
Mm,
think this is probably a worthy conversation that needs to be had about you
yes.
know yeah, how folk
Yes.
can't deal with you because of
See.
their own issues. Yeah.
Right, because of their own
Hmm.
issues. See there?
Hmm.
That's why she my friend, y'all. See, friends know stuff. I know stuff about her. That's why she my friend, because I love her to death. She's a sweet person. And even though she's a professor, she just people.
Mm. Yeah,
She's not one of those professors and writers that just poke their nose up at you like you beneath them and stuff.
not at all. Mm-mm, not at
I
all.
love her to death. I love her, and her family is my family. And I cannot believe baby girl is 9. She was like just 5 minutes ago.
Yes, yes. Not she's 99.
Oh, if you guys ever met her, you would understand.
Okay.
She is something
Hmm.
else. Okay, so now, Miss Malone,
Yes.
today we are talking about people's perception of you
Hmm.
being none of your business.
Hmm.
So, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got from place to place to get to where you are now, and how people's perception may have affected your journey.
Oh, wow. Um, I guess my journey it has some raggedy, jagged edges, so I'll put it like that because I guess just the way my life started when I was young, with my mom passing when I was 7, and
Mhm.
my dad leaving me to be raised by my grandmother, and then she eventually passed, and then being raised by my aunt. And I don't like to say I was bounced around because it sounds
Mhm.
kind of bad, but it was a necessary bounce, like it needed to happen. So it was
Right.
always very hard for me to kind of establish deep relationships.
Mhm.
Um, Very much a loner. And uh, people were concerned because I would rather be like in a corner reading a book than
Mhm.
engaging with a group of people. And I
Ah.
think that perception, like the skewed perception, was less of, she's trying to navigate this abandonment and separation, which is super important between a mother and daughter between the ages of 5 and 11,
Mhm.
and kind of took it as me uh, perhaps even being like kind of snotty or arrogant, or
Mhm.
feeling as if, people felt as if I thought I was above them because I would rather read than engage. And see, not seeing that as a coping mechanism, but as a way that I was deliberately putting a wall between me and the world. And I think
Ah.
that perception kind of stuck with me um, for, I mean, up until today.
Mhm.
And it's really hard to shake it because I'm kind of steeped in it. But
Right.
what I've tried to do is be really cognizant of when I am isolating or separating, but also know when I need to, because it's still a coping mechanism for me.
Right.
And I don't think I should sacrifice what I need to do to recharge myself in
Mhm.
order to kind of placate and please other people. Because if I don't do it, they're not going to get the best of me anyway.
Right.
So that's one perception that I've always had to well, that's I've always seen from other people. People have even told me that. But of course, the older I get, the less concerned
Right.
I get about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think if people really wanted to get to know me, and they felt like I was in that place, their own bravery, even if it's some type of what they perceive in themselves as fear or intimidation, their own bravery would just surpass that. And they would come in and check me out and
Mm-hmm.
would see that, I'm not what they perceive me to be. And
Right.
at that point, then their perception of me becomes my business. But prior to that, when they're making up stories about who I am and what I'm thinking and how I feel about them, because I am the way I am, it's of no concern to me
Right.
as
Right.
much. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So now for me, I had kind of a rough way coming up, not so much as a child, but from a teenager on. And
Mm-hmm.
for a long time I was really, really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And people thought because I was a quiet person that I
Mm-hmm.
was a pushover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't so much that I was a pushover, it's that I had to know you to
Mm-hmm.
really be myself
Right.
with you.
Right.
And that
Right.
was because of some things that I had experienced along the way. I had trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it didn't mean that, I didn't want to talk to you. It didn't mean that I was just, somebody you could just do any kind of way. It meant that I am just quiet because I'm watching
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning and I'm figuring you out and I'm trying to make sure you are who you're showing me.
Mm-hmm.
And their perception of me was so, they found out the hard way that I wasn't a pushover.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
you
Oh
know
yeah.
you know
Mm-hmm.
and they found out the hard way that I wasn't a pushover. And then even, being a young mom, people thought that because I had 3 children and there were 3 different fathers that I was loose,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Mm-hmm.
not the case.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
was fertile
Right. Yes, indeed.
because I was in
Yes, indeed.
relationship with each one of these people.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it just happened. It didn't mean that
Mhm.
I was just throwing myself out there. So I dealt with a lot of misconceptions about myself.
Mhm.
It was
Mhm.
like, this is how she is. And I'm like, no, that's not how I am at all. And
Mhm.
and it used to hurt me when people would go to someone and say something about me and then that person come confront me and I'm going, have you even met me? That doesn't even sound like me. you
Right.
know
Right.
and it'd be people that know you your whole life, but
Mhm.
they would believe the person that's coming to them rather than saying, you know what, I've known her whole life and I've never known her to do that or
Right.
act like
Right.
that.
Mhm.
And so, that's at that point, that perception can break
Mhm. It
but I
can.
always felt like, well, as I got older, I started to realize that what you think really didn't matter to me because I know
Mm.
me better than you do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
started to really, really understand that. So now I had come across an article where they were talking about changing how others see you.
Mhm. Mhm.
I tend to think that you shouldn't have to change how others see you because you are who you are.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's my opinion.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what do you think?
Yeah, that's really sticky. Because I'm always trying to balance that, like how much of who I am do I need to pay attention to, so much so that I need to make some very marked improvements.
Mm-hmm.
So when you told me the subject, like, how you perceive me is none of my business, like it's
Mm-hmm.
none of my business. Um, I did have some conflicting, and not in a bad way, just some conflicting thoughts about what that looked like, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the energy you're putting out there, the face that you put out there, I
Right.
mean, just because it's yours doesn't mean it's good. Uh,
Exactly. Very true.
so You know,
Very true.
you got to work on that. And so my whole thing was, if I'm repeatedly hearing the same thing from different
Hmm.
people in different spaces, I believe that I need to check on that.
Make some changes.
Yep,
Right.
I need
And
to
see,
check on that.
I think that's where some people get it mixed up because, of
Mhm.
course, you say, like we say, other people's perception of you is none of your business.
Mhm.
Because if they
Mhm.
see you one way and that's not you, then that's something going on with them.
Mhm.
However,
Mhm. Mhm.
however, if 15 people are telling you the same thing,
Right.
then you might need to stop and take a look and take some stock and say, wait a minute, why do
Mhm.
everybody feel like I'm like
Mhm.
this?
Mhm.
And one of the things that they said in the article was that you have to observe how your behavior impacts others,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
which is
Oh yeah.
which is really true, because you have to stop and say, wait a minute, what am I doing that's making people think that I'm this horrible person? Or what am I doing to make people think that, in my case, was what was I doing to make people think I was loose? Oh, I keep having babies.
Mm. Mm.
You
Mm.
see what I'm saying? You're thinking,
Yes.
oh, she's got to be loose because every time I look up, she's pregnant. Now keep
Mhm.
in mind, two of them are a year and a half apart, and the next one was 4 years down the line.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like this was happening back to back, but that's how
Mhm.
people see it.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're like, she pregnant every year. Oh,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so at that point, I had to say, now wait,
Right.
and it, am I doing something that's making these people think this about me?
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, and
Because
then you,
people don't see the details, Kim. You know, they
right,
really don't. They
right,
just see the front, and they see some pieces of your life, and then they put them together they to the way it makes them feel better about who they
right,
are. And
right,
so, like, you have to acknowledge that
right,
what people are seeing are just pieces of who I am, and just like our minds do, they try to put together the pieces and make sense of it. Sometimes that stuff is not true. It's not
right,
even close to what it really is. Um, so you can't necessarily be mad at them for doing what they do, because
right,
honestly, we do it too. I mean,
right. Yeah,
you
because
kind
you,
of
you you look at
pull things
somebody and you
together and kind of
say,
draw some conclusions. And
right,
according to the conclusions you draw, you may interact with that person if you're not mindful
right,
in that way.
right,
So I think, yeah, it's warranted. Yeah, you should step back and consider, but wait a minute. Why are they, you know, perceiving me this way?
mm-hmm,
Um, but you also have to be really careful in whether you're going to explain to
mm-hmm,
everybody, because everybody doesn't need an explanation.
right,
They don't. And
right,
because what's if I give you one, what are you gonna do with it?
right,
So I just kind of have to. It's always a delicate balance,
right,
and I'm like
right,
you. I watch,
mm-hmm,
and I try to see how people respond to me, and I try to understand why people may perceive me a certain way. I
mm-hmm,
try to understand, but I don't take it in so much so where I'm so consumed that I'm trying to recalibrate who I am every moment to fit every
exactly,
person I encounter.
exactly.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, I am, for me, I am who I am no matter what.
Mhm.
But I have to, like you said, you have to find that good balance.
Mhm.
So if I'm coming off as stuck up, no, I'm just kind of watching to make sure
Mhm.
that I'm not offending, or I'm
Mhm.
trying to get to know you before I really open up to you. But then that could be taken as she kind of stuck up, she don't want to talk to anybody,
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know
Right.
and
Right.
so, but you have to find that balance. I've actually gotten to the point where I used to care so much about what people thought that I wouldn't do things for myself
Wow.
because I was so scared of what somebody was going to think or say.
Wow.
Like even when I was raising my children, because I did everything I could to make sure they had everything they needed. But I wouldn't buy new clothes and shoes for myself because I didn't want anybody to think that I was not taking care of my children.
Right.
I would feel guilty about buying a pair of boots,
Mm.
and then turn around and take them back
Mhm.
because I feel bad.
Mhm.
because
Mm-hmm.
somebody is looking at me funny because how she get new boots, and she got 3 kids.
Right. Right.
So I had to really start working hard on me because when you get to the point where now there's like you said, when we you have to take stock in yourself if everybody's saying the same thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets to the point where you're doing things like hiding the fact that you got a new car, or
Uh-huh.
hiding the fact that you went on vacation, not
Mm-hmm.
inviting people to your house because you have nice things and you're scared of what they're going to say. Now
Mm-hmm.
that's you really need to stop thinking about that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because
I agree.
I'm a firm believer. If you got a problem with me having nice things, then the problem's not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The problem is you. And it took
You're
a
the
long
problem.
time to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
It took a
Mm-hmm.
very long time to get to that. If you have a
Yeah.
problem with the fact that I smile all the time,
Yeah.
the problem's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it took a very long time. My ex-husband's mother hated my guts because she said I was too nice. She said nobody's that nice.
Mm-hmm.
To the
Mm-hmm.
point where, and I used to do everything I could to try to make her like me. I was doing stuff for her, taking her places. When she got sick and was in the hospital, I was at the hospital every night. They
Mm-hmm.
sent her home. She had to lose a leg. I was at her house. I moved her from an
Mm-hmm.
upstairs to a downstairs. I
Mm-hmm.
took care of her, and she still hated me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then she decided that nobody can be this nice. Let me call out here and see if she got warrants out for her arrest.
Wow.
This is how mean this woman was. And at
Wow.
that precise moment,
Wow.
when his brother called me and said, "Hey, look, I don't know if you got any tickets or nothing, but if I was you, I'd be careful because I don't know why she's doing it. But she's calling downtown to see if you got warrants."
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that to me at that precise moment, I said, "You know what? The problem's not me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something is going on with her.
For her. Yeah.
Because why would you have a problem with me being nice to you?"
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where you
Yeah.
come into that folks' perception of you.
Right.
That ain't your business.
Mm-hmm.
When they
That was not your business.
that was not my business.
No, you don't want to get into all that.
That didn't have nothing to do with me. So you have to find out what is your business
Mm-hmm.
and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
if you got, like you said, if you got 15, 20, 30 people say, "She kind of mean,"
Mm-hmm.
then you have to say, "Wait,
Yeah. You gotta look at that thing again, like, wait a minute, okay.
why are they
Am I
thinking I'm
mean?
mean? Am I a mean person?" So then the article said that you need to ask people for feedback,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
but you can't ask just anybody.
Absolutely. You cannot.
That's the thing right there. You do
Mm-hmm.
have to ask people for feedback, but you have to ask somebody you really trust.
Right. And you know not to ask the person who's always giving you feedback when you don't even ask them to give you feedback.
There
Don't
you
ask that
go.
person. Mm-mm.
There you go. I'll tell you, it's funny that you should say that because I actually had this kind of a similar conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago, and it was a friend of mine, and she's been looking for a job, and I was in the same predicament for
Mm-hmm.
quite some time, and so she said to me, "I'm so sick of people calling me and telling me, asking me if I applied somewhere."
Mm-hmm.
And giving me 50 suggestions of where to apply and asking me about my resume. "Well, did you try
Mm-hmm.
this and did you try that?" She said,
Mm-hmm.
"I'm just tired of everybody." She said, "I know everybody's concerned, but I'm sick of everybody giving me advice."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And advice that she didn't ask for.
Right.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I can relate because I was in the same boat. I was so
Mm-hmm.
tired of
Mm-hmm.
people saying, "Well, did you apply here? Well, did you apply there? Did you try this? Did you try that? Well, what does your resume look like? Have you updated your resume?"
And you be like, now do you think I would not do those things? So yeah.
Right. And then you ask the question, "How old do you think I am?"
Yeah, that's the real question. Do I look 6 to you?
Right. So you got to make sure that you're asking the right people for the
Mm-hmm.
feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people are going to give you feedback whether you ask for it or,
Absolutely.
or not.
Right. And the people who give you, I'm telling you, the people who give you feedback when you don't ask, don't ever ask them for feedback.
Because then when you ask them, they're going to give you way more than what you
Oh.
really asked for.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
another thing that they were saying was you have to make behavioral changes immediately.
Okay.
Now, you tell me how you would do that. Because, see, I have a hard time making behavioral changes
Immediately. I think for
immediately
me, it's
because I
immediately.
think I could be a little stubborn. I'm like, well, I got to do it right now.
Right. So, yeah, my thing with immediately is just like anything, my personality is I got to ease into things. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
have to ease into the mornings, like into the day. Like, I can't just be hopping up out the bed. Like, I let just one step at a time. So, I have to ease into changes. Like, immediately is not going to come for me immediately. It's just kind of like I have to think about it. Then I got to get some research on it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have to say, what does this look like on me? Because I don't want to be mimicking somebody else.
Right.
You know, like it's almost like study. And I guess that's probably why I'm a teacher, because I'm a researcher by nature. I'm not
Uh-huh.
just going to jump in just because somebody says make changes and make them immediately. That doesn't mean it's going to happen like that. Like, what's going to happen to my brain when I
Right.
like, what if I don't get settled in this? Like, what if I start making these changes and I stop, and then, all of a sudden it's like I broke a promise to myself. How was that going to disappoint me? So, I mean, it's a lot of thought goes into making those changes, and that goes back to what you've been saying, what we've been talking about. Like, how are you assessing whether
Right.
these changes are necessary now?
Right.
How are you assessing whether these suggested changes are credible? Like, how are you assessing that? And then once you assess that, how rational and how likely is it that you can do that thing in that way?
Right.
Um, so you have to kind of be a self watcher. You have to use that little metacognition. Think about the way you think, and
Mm-hmm.
then try to honestly ask God, like, I know this is a necessary change. I feel this is a necessary change. Help me make it the change in the way that you design me to walk this path.
Right.
Um, and that's why I try my best not to change immediately, but I also try my best to be really, really intentional
Mm-hmm.
and mindful that this needs to happen, and every small step helps.
Right.
And then the more I do it, even if I have to think about it, I know I'm getting closer and closer to it being a normal part of my daily life.
Right.
Um, but it doesn't happen for me. I know some people can do that, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, it just doesn't happen that way. And I'm okay with that because I know I'm trying to get there, and I will get there.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I
Mhm.
have I have an issue with, and it's kind of a double-edged sword for me, I guess, because I always try to be the best version of myself that I can be, and I
Mhm.
always try to be as nice to people as I can. But I
Mhm.
take issue when you're giving me what they call critical advice
Mhm.
or suggestions, but you haven't
Mhm.
really paid attention or researched the situation.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
take issue with. That's why when it says to make changes immediately, I'm like you. No, I got to check some stuff out first, and
Mhm.
then gradually make the move. Because,
Mhm.
like for instance, let me just. This is kind of different topic, but along the same lines. Like for instance, when I started the podcast,
Mhm.
I had already done probably about 8 shows,
Mhm.
and suddenly I had 2 or 3 people giving me all these suggestions on topics.
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with that. What you should do is this, because ain't nobody gonna listen to this, and everybody do this and everybody do that. Well, first, my
Mhm.
first thing is I'm not everybody.
Mhm.
I'm me.
Absolutely.
And everybody may be doing it, but I haven't done it. And that's how I
Mm-hmm.
feel. So I get a little bit offended because you're trying to change me to talk about something that's not comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the suggestions kept coming. Well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? So I asked the question, have you listened to any of my podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
And your answer
Mm-hmm.
is no. So then
Mm-hmm.
how can you make suggestions if you've never actually listened to one?
Right.
How can you go to my YouTube channel and tell me what I should do on my cooking channel, but you've never
Right.
watched one of my videos?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know if I've already done that or not.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So
Mm-hmm.
I take a little bit of an issue with making a change quickly because you three people are saying that I need to make this change.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to
Mm-hmm.
find out if you're really interested in making me better or if you're just making suggestions just to be making suggestions.
Right.
And
Right.
that's why I said I think I could be a little stubborn. I'm like, not right now, but I can
Right.
I can gradually, like I had someone say to me, no one makes, everybody always wants to know how to make mac and cheese. You should do a real mac and cheese video. I'm like, I did one. So
Mm-hmm.
that just
Mm-hmm.
tells me that you didn't look at my channel.
Mm-hmm. Not
So
paying attention.
you're
Right.
making all these suggestions, but you haven't watched the video.
Right.
Or you see a video from when I first started and tell me, no, don't do that again because that picture was horrible and da da da. But that was like in the first 5 videos. So you're just now seeing it. And I've improved since then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why I said I have to really, really get into are you really trying to make me better or are you just making suggestions because you think you know more?
Right. Right.
That's where my issue is. That's why I struggle with that one a little bit.
Right.
I can make the changes if they need to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to make sure that the change really needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then
Alrighty, my darlings, you have been listening to part 1 of None of Your Business, which is part of our Women Talking series with our wonderful guest, Professor Dianne Malone, author, motivational speaker, blogger, and just simply my friend. I'm so glad to have her on in the midst of this series. She has a plethora of knowledge. If you want to know anything or if you want to just find her or go and check her out, you can go to Dianne, that's with 2 N's, Dianne Malone.com. You can also find her books. She has written several wonderful books. She even has a devotional book that she wrote for women called Light Up. And I would like for you guys to go over to her website, check out her blog. She has a blog called Who's That Lady? And so go and check out her blog, check out her website, purchase some of her books. You will be very, very pleased. Part 2 of this episode will be coming very, very soon. I am so grateful as always for you guys to stop by and take some time out of your busy lives to listen to little old me. I thank you. I love you, love you, love you. God bless you. Now, if you want to check me out or trying to follow me a little bit, or if you even want to send me a message, you can find Stella Ruth's Table on Facebook, Stella Ruth's Table on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter at Ruth_Table, or you can just send us an email at StellaRuth'sTable@gmail.com. Thanks again, guys, for stopping by. Remember to always live life, laugh often, and eat some good food while you're doing it. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of your day.